Kimberly stood at the front steps of the house she had grown up in, her heart pounding so hard it echoed in her ears. The cold evening breeze swept past her, but she barely noticed. Her fingers clenched tightly around the keys in her hand as she reached for the lock. But when she turned it, the key didn't fit. Frowning, she tried again. Nothing. A sickening feeling curled in her stomach as she stepped back and stared at the door. Something was wrong. Knocking firmly, she called out, "Daddy? Miss Carmen?" From inside, muffled voices and the sound of silverware clinking against plates told her they were having dinner. A chair scraped, and then, finally, a voice called out, not her father's, but her stepmother's. "We don't want any visitors, Kimberly." "Visitors?" Kimberly's breath hitched. She knocked again, harder this time. "It's me, Kimberly. Open the door." This time, her father's voice rang out, tired and dismissive. "Go away, Kimberly. You're being stubborn." "Stubborn?" Her legs went weak. "Daddy, what are you talking about?" "This is my house." A cruel chuckle came from inside. "Your house." Her stepmother's voice dripped with mockery. "You're just a wicked little girl who wants to throw a pregnant woman and her family onto the streets." What kind of heartless child does that? Kimberly could hardly breathe. "I gave you 3 months to find somewhere else to stay. I was fair. Now open this damn door before I underscore." "You'll do what?" Carmen snapped. "You don't have any power here. This is our home now." Kimberly stumbled back as if she had been slapped. The betrayal stung deeper than any wound. Her mother's house, the house she had legally inherited, was being stolen right in front of her eyes. By her own father and the woman he chose over her. Tears burned at the edges of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She wasn't a little girl who could be bullied. If they wanted a fight, she would give them one. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out her phone and did the only thing left to do. She called the cops. And this time, she wouldn't show them mercy. For months earlier, Kimberly never had an issue with her father remarrying. After all, she understood that he had been lonely since her mother passed. Cancer had taken her too soon, leaving just the two of them behind. So when he met Carmen and introduced her as the woman he wanted to marry, Kimberly had forced a smile and accepted it. It didn't matter that Carmen was nearly 20 years younger than her father, or that Carmen's daughter, Desiree, was 2 years older than Kimberly herself. As long as they respected her mother's memory and didn't try to erase her presence, Kimberly could make peace with the new family dynamic. But Carmen did not respect her mother. The first sign was subtle, just small, snide comments about the house being old-fashioned. Then, Carmen started making changes. New furniture, new curtains. Kimberly didn't mind. Until the day she came home from school and found 3 of her mother's hand-painted canvases stuffed into a trash bag by the curb. Her breath had caught in her throat as she rushed forward, yanking the bag open. The paintings, beautiful abstract pieces her mother had spent weeks perfecting, were crumpled, ruined with deep scratches across the canvas. "What the hell is this?" she had screamed, dragging the bag back to the porch. Carmen, standing in the doorway with a paint roller in her hand, had only shrugged. "They were tacky." Kimberly saw red. "Those were my mother's. How dare you touch them?" "I'm just making this place feel like home," Carmen said dismissively. "It's time to move on, Kimberly. You can't live in the past forever." That was the first time Kimberly warned her. "Change anything you want, but stay out of my mother's room and don't touch her things." Carmen had smiled sweetly, feigning agreement. But she had no intention of listening. Because a week later, Kimberly returned home to find her mother's room completely repainted. The soft, warm lilac color her mother had loved was gone, replaced by a dull gray. The floral curtains were stripped away. Even the scent of her mother's old perfume had been wiped out, replaced by the overwhelming smell of fresh paint. Kimberly had run straight to her father, her heart breaking with every word as she demanded answers. His response? "It's time we let go of the past, Kimberly." And just like that, everything shattered. Kimberly had been patient. She had swallowed her pain, buried her anger, and tried to hold on. But then came the day she returned from school to find her bedroom door's lock changed. Confused, she had knocked. But instead of silence, Desiree's voice rang out from inside. Ugh, why are you banging like that? Kimberly's hands clenched into fists. Desiree, open my damn door. When the door finally swung open, Kimberly's eyes widened in shock. The room was different. Her bed was gone. Her posters had been ripped down. And there, lounging comfortably on her old mattress, was Desiree's boyfriend, Tyrell. Kimberly's blood ran cold. What the hell is this? Desiree rolled her eyes. Well, duh, it's my room now. She motioned to Tyrell, who stretched lazily. We needed more space, and your room was perfect. You can just pick another one. Kimberly turned on her heel and stormed down the stairs. Carmen was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup as if nothing was wrong. What did you do? Kimberly demanded. Carmen barely glanced at her. Lower your voice. Lower my... Kimberly let out a bitter laugh. You put your pregnant daughter and her boyfriend in my room? And you expect me to be okay with that? Carmen sighed dramatically. I knew you wouldn't understand. You're selfish, Kimberly. My daughter is carrying a child, your future niece or nephew, and you don't even care about their comfort. Comfort? Kimberly's voice trembled with rage. Let me make this clear. This house isn't yours. It belonged to my mother. And legally, it belongs to me now. Carmen's face drained of color. What? Kimberly crossed her arms. Oh, did Daddy not tell you? My mother transferred ownership to me before she passed, which means you don't get to do whatever you want here. And starting now, all renovations stop. Carmen had no words. And for the first time, Kimberly saw something new in her stepmother's eyes, fear. But that fear wouldn't last long. Because 3 months later, when Kimberly returned, she would find herself locked out of her own house. And this time, she wouldn't be asking nicely. Kimberly stood frozen on the porch, the weight of betrayal pressing down on her chest. The house, her house, stood just a few feet away, yet she couldn't step inside. The locks had been changed. Inside, laughter and the clinking of plates echoed through the walls. They were having dinner, sitting comfortably at her dining table, acting as if she didn't exist. Her fingers curled into fists. She knocked again, harder this time. Open the damn door, Daddy. Right now. A chair scraped against the floor, and Carmen's voice rang out, casual and mocking. I thought I told you. We're not taking visitors tonight. Kimberly's pulse roared in her ears. Visitor? Daddy, she shouted, her voice raw. Tell her to open the door. You know this isn't right. For a moment, there was silence. Then, her father's voice, tired and detached, came from inside. Go home, Kimberly. The words hit her like a slap. She stumbled back a step, disbelief turning into burning rage. I am home, she shot back. This is my house. Carmen's laughter was cold and sharp. Not anymore, sweetheart. Kimberly's jaw clenched. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and dialed 911. If they thought they could steal what was hers, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. 10 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived, their patrol car's lights flashing in the dark. Kimberly stood on the porch, arms crossed, while Carmen and her father remained inside, refusing to open the door. An officer, a broad-shouldered man named Officer Reynolds, stepped up beside her. You're the homeowner? Yes, Kimberly said, her voice firm. My mother left this house to me before she passed. I have all the legal documents to prove it. Reynolds nodded. And they changed the locks without your permission? Yes. He turned to the door and knocked loudly. This is the police. Open up. Muffled voices whispered behind the door. A few seconds later, Carmen's voice rang out. We don't want trouble, officer. Then open the door, Reynolds said flatly. Slowly, the door creaked open. Carmen stood there, her arms crossed, her expression tight. Her husband, Kimberly's father, stood behind her, his face unreadable. Reynolds sighed. We've been informed that you changed the locks on this house without the legal owner's consent. Carmen let out a dramatic scoff. She's just a kid. This house belongs to her father, and he. No, Kimberly cut in coldly. It belongs to me. And if you had done your research, you would have known that. Carmen's mouth snapped shut. Reynolds turned to Kimberly's father. Sir, are you aware that your daughter is the legal owner of this property? Her father exhaled, rubbing his temples. I thought, I thought we could reason with her. She's being stubborn. Stubborn? Kimberly repeated, her voice shaking. You stole my home. Reynolds didn't waste time. Legally, you and your wife are trespassing. You have two choices, leave willingly, or we remove you by force. Carmen's face twisted with fury. You can't just throw us out. I have a pregnant daughter in this house. Then you had 3 months to find somewhere else to stay. Kimberly snapped. Reynolds sighed. Ma'am, I suggest you cooperate. For a moment, no one moved. Then, Carmen turned on Kimberly, her face contorted with hate. You wicked, heartless girl. Throwing your own father into the streets? You'll suffer for this. Mark my words, you will suffer. Kimberly didn't flinch. Get out of my house. And that was the last thing she said before the police escorted them off the property, their screams of curses ringing into the night. But as Kimberly stood in her now empty home, staring at the destruction left behind, she realized one thing. The battle was over, but the scars would last forever. The silence in the house was deafening. Kimberly stood in the living room, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on her chest. The house, once warm and full of her mother's presence, felt hollow, violated. She stepped forward slowly, taking in the damage. The walls that had once displayed her mother's beautiful paintings were bare, repainted in dull beige. The scent of fresh paint mixed with the faint, lingering smell of her mother's favorite vanilla candles. Her throat tightened. She walked toward the hallway leading to her mother's old room. The door was ajar. A deep breath. She pushed it open. The once cozy space had been stripped of everything familiar. The floral wallpaper her mother had handpicked was gone, replaced with something modern and soulless. The antique furniture had been replaced with sleek, unfamiliar pieces. Kimberly swallowed hard. It wasn't just redecorated. It was erased. Her hands clenched into fists. This wasn't just about renovations. It was about Carmen trying to erase her mother's existence. A sharp wave of anger surged through her, but beneath it, there was something worse. A deep, gnawing grief. Slowly, she turned and made her way to her own room. She wasn't sure what to expect, but when she opened the door, she felt her breath hitch. Empty. The bed, her desk, her bookshelves gone. Instead, her stepsister's clothes were scattered everywhere, a pair of men's shoes by the bed. The sheets were messy, and the faint scent of men's cologne lingered in the air. Kimberly's jaw tightened. They hadn't just taken her space. They had defiled it. Her hands trembled as she turned on her heel and marched back downstairs. The anger she had been trying to hold erupted like wildfire. Grabbing a trash bag from the kitchen, she stormed back up the stairs and began ripping things off the walls, tossing clothes, shoes, and anything that belonged to Carmen and her daughter into the bag. By the time she was done, she was breathing heavily, her fingers raw from gripping and tearing. She dragged the bags downstairs, out the front door, and onto the curb. She was done. This was her house, and no one would take it from her again. The next morning, Kimberly woke up to a knocking sound. She groggily pulled herself out of bed, still exhausted from the night before. As she reached the door, she hesitated. She had changed the locks the previous night, but a small part of her still feared seeing her father standing on the other side. No, not feared, dreaded. Taking a deep breath, she unlocked the door and pulled it open. A middle-aged woman in a sharp navy blue suit stood there, holding a folder. Her hair was in a tight bun, and she had a no-nonsense expression. Kimberly Price? Kimberly nodded cautiously. Yes, I'm Olivia Hart, your mother's lawyer. Kimberly's brows furrowed. My mother's lawyer? Olivia nodded. I was responsible for handling her estate after she passed. I'm here because there are things you need to know. Kimberly stepped aside, letting the woman in. She led Olivia to the kitchen, offering her a seat at the dining table. The woman placed the folder down, flipping it open. I'm sure you already know that your mother left this house to you, Olivia began. However, there's something else she left behind. Kimberly's heart pounded. What do you mean? Olivia pulled out a document and slid it across the table. This is a trust fund your mother set up for you before she passed. Kimberly's breath caught. A trust fund. Olivia nodded. Your mother was smarter than most people realized. She knew there was a possibility your father would remarry, and she wanted to ensure that you were taken care of, no matter what happened. Kimberly's hands trembled as she reached for the document. How much? She whispered. Olivia hesitated. $300,000. Kimberly's stomach dropped. $300,000. She had been living under Carmen's reign of terror, struggling to hold on to the last pieces of her mother's memory, while all this time, she had a fortune waiting for her. Kimberly exhaled shakily. How do I access it? Olivia smiled faintly. It was released to you the moment you turned 18. The funds are yours, Kimberly. You can do whatever you want with them. For the first time in months, Kimberly felt something shift inside her. Power. She wasn't just a girl fighting to keep her home anymore. She was a girl with options. And for the first time since her mother died, she had the upper hand. A month later, Kimberly sat on the porch of her fully restored home, sipping a cup of tea as the sun set. She had spent so much time fighting for what was hers, but now, for the first time in a long time, there was peace. Her mother's house was safe. Her mother's memory was intact. And she was finally free. A small smile played on her lips. She didn't just win. She survived. And that was the greatest victory of all. Hi, besties. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.